Hello and welcome to another episode of the Afterburners podcast. I am your host, Sam Niedermeyer. With me, as always, Mr. Bobby Koch. Bobby, how are you doing today?
Good, and I guess the Mr. is more accurate than usual today.
I was gonna say Mr. Coup de Grace, but I guess
I don't know everyone knows what her social media handles are. Which, by the way, she changed her name on all social media to Grace Blywise Koch now.
Really?
Yeah,
Twitter,
she did it today.
Instagram, all that stuff?
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. For the listeners who don't know, I got married this weekend. No one watches our YouTube, but I'm lifting up my ring finger to the camera.
I'll put a pickup on the Twitter.
Yeah. It was a good time. Fun was had by all. I stomped on a glass using my huge size 14 feet. You know what they say about big feet? They're made for stomping on glass or big socks.
One of the two.
Yeah.
Beautiful wedding, man. It was a really great time. We were up there. Both of us, obviously, you were married, and then I actually got the invite, which was nice. Great to meet your family. Great to meet a lot of your friends that you have that I don't know about. So it was awesome. Beautiful venue in Bear Mountain State Park. Really enjoyed myself.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. And a friend of the podcast, Zach Wilkins at Lopsided Trades, was the best man, and he gave what I thought was a great speech. He did a really good job. He was assisted by one of my other friends, supposedly, but he did good.
That is the story, yes.
So his fantasy football writing carried over well to best man speech writing.
Excellent weekend, although we have to say we switch gears just a little bit. We have some news that we have to get out about the Afterburners podcast. So notice it's just me and Bobby today. We got some news that Mike has recently taken a position. Very nice new position, nice job, in which it's going to have caused some scheduling problems with us recording. So at least for a little while, it's just going to be you and me.
Yep. We're also going on hiatus after this episode while we're getting some news out. I'm going to be on my honeymoon, so we're not going to be recording for at least a few weeks. But real quick about Mike, am I the only one who finds it really, really funny that he continually burned the fast food service in Kitchener? And now he's a manager at fast food. So I guess they were listening and thought, look, this guy can show them how it's done, and let's give him a big pay raise. So it's good news for Mike. We're sad that he's not with us, but we're happy for him.
I think they saw, like you said, they heard him on the podcast. Like, this guy knows how to develop some content marketing, got some great ideas for
he knows how to treat customers.
Like, yeah, he's got a really good vibe going on. So real quick, we will be off for the next couple of weeks because you got your honeymoon.
Yep.
I'm not invited to that, correct?
No.
Okay.
That's just me and Grace. Although, so we're going to Positano, Rome, and London, and in London there are a few UK football fans that I talked to, and they've been like, "Oh, it'd be great to meet up with you." And I said, "Yeah, I don't know if I can really do that on my honeymoon, but there might be some like coincidental, quote unquote, nudge nudge, wink wink run-ins where they just happen to be at the same place."
I hear
at the
you.
same time.
I like it.
But we'll see. I'm very excited about it, though.
My one piece of advice when you go to England is that if somebody offers you a fag, it's a cigarette.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Okay, all right. Just want to throw that out there so you don't have to get weirded out when you say, "Hey, man, if somebody
that's not cool."
Fancy a fag a little bit, like whoa.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we got a great show today. We're going to talk. Last week we went over the running backs. They're going to help rookie running backs. Going to help quarterbacks. We're going to go with wide receivers and tight ends that got drafted. At least we're not going to hit all of them, but the ones that we think that are going to make a difference.
The pass catchers is what we're going over today. And when we return, we'll probably have some guests as well. But just for today, it's just Sam and I.
Just us, and then we'll have some guests, obviously, in 2 or 3 weeks, guys. So if you do want to contact us to be a guest, we're looking for anybody to come on at any time. You can find us at Afterburners Pod here on Twitter. Locate us on Podbean, Stitcher, iTunes. Make sure that you subscribe, review, and download on iTunes as well. You can find me at the Needy One, Bobby.
You can find me at REKEG Fantasy. That's not me trying to be a Twitter tough guy. And there are no more references, I'm very sad about it, in my Twitter profile to Blake Bortles because I wanted to put in that I was married to my wife.
That was a classy AF move, man.
Yeah, it's sad.
It really was. I mean, if Grace doesn't get blown away by that level of dedication, dude.
Well, she put in, at least for a bit, I think she's removing it, but she did put in a reference to Blake Bortles in her profile because she had room. So that just shows you how much we mean to each other, that I removed Blake Bortles for her, and she added Blake Bortles for me.
Speaking of Blake Bortles, real quick, you saw the news last week in which he prevented a robbery or something like that?
Yeah, so really quick, I do have to touch on this. Blake Bortles, I told you guys all in my piece for Two Quarterbacks that he was Batman. Everyone went, "Oh, Blake Bortles is so bad at football. Let's make fun of Bobby for loving Blake Bortles." And then he helped apprehend someone who's trying to steal. I mean, they're trying to steal his truck, but still, he stopped them.
They took our truck.
So the legend of Blake Bortles just continues. Tom Brady never stopped anybody. And also, have you ever seen Blake Bortles and Batman in the same room? Think about that.
I haven't.
Yeah, I haven't either.
And now I think about it, I haven't seen Blake Bortles and Spider-Man or Iron Man in the same room, or
he could be any of them.
Any of them, yeah. So we're gonna be on the lookout. BOLO for Blake Bortles as the superhero. So cool, good stuff on Blake Bortles. Congratulations on being a crime fighter. Let's go right into the pass catching wide receivers and tight ends that should develop some impact for some of these dynasty quarterbacks. First one we got on our list here, drafted in the first round by the Carolina Panthers.
Yep.
Out of Maryland, DJ Moore.
Yeah.
What do you think of DJ Moore? You like him?
I like DJ Moore a lot. He kind of burst onto the scene after his combine. I know he had some good college numbers. What I like the most about this is the Panthers are starting to move away from those big, slow guys like Kelvin Benjamin and Devin Funchess. They're trying to add some more speed to their game. And I really think a lot of people were really mad about the landing spot because they think Cam's inconsistent. But could it also be that, yes, Cam may have some wobbly passes once in a while, but he also just generally hasn't had the best receivers outside of Greg Olsen? So I think this actually helps Cam both now and long term, because I think DJ Moore is going to be a great wide receiver in this league. And he may not be the prototypical wide receiver one type size, but you know, the league's changing where guys like DJ Moore are going to be your wide receiver one.
230 anymore.
Yeah.
If you're a wide receiver, you don't. I mean, let's face it, like the offensive coordinators are smart enough so that they can develop these slot receivers to get 1,000 yards.
Yeah, and the slot
receivers
used
to be a slot receiver.
The slot receivers seem to be the guys who get all the volume these days, and generally like your star players.
Perfect example. Last year, a rookie, even though he was a running back, played for the Carolina Panthers, but was mostly a receiver out of the slot. Finished with about what do you finish with? 70 catches, 80 catches,
something like that.
Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about him. I know some people are like, oh, he'll be fine and DJ Moore will be fine, but they do kind of operate in the same part of the field. So I could see it hurting Christian McCaffrey a little bit.
It could, but you could also see McCaffrey going back to like a traditional like running back role.
Yeah, but they also just got CJ Anderson. So I'm not really sure how that's all going to work out. But I think DJ Moore, day one, assuming no injuries, hits the field and it becomes the primary target for Cam Newton.
DJ Moore combine numbers, he ran a 4.4240, and he had the second highest vertical at 6 foot. I think he's 6 foot, like 210 or something like that. You're right. He's not a tall guy. Look, I'm with you. I think this makes a whole lot of sense. I'm not just going to subscribe to the theory anymore that you need like like your prototypical like wide receiver run who's just this giant bulking guy who can.
Well, you of all people especially shouldn't think that, because Antonio Brown is small for a traditional receiver.
Yeah, it's all about route running these days.
Yeah, and he's arguably, and I know we both agree on this, the current best wide receiver in the game.
So I'm going to make a real quick thing too. So Greg Olsen's, I think he signed up for another 2 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, but he had been thinking about like retiring to go to the booth.
Yeah. So he's thinking about leaving. So even though this theoretically could bring Christian McCaffrey's numbers down, like somebody's going to have to fill that void next year and in the year after. Somebody's going to have to fill that void where Cam feels comfortable on third down going to. It could be DJ Moore. It could be on a 4-yard curl. It could be on a 15-yard like out or like post. Like
they also just need options. I mean, I like Devin Funchess, but I don't think by any means he should be your primary target. He's a glorified tight end, more or less. He plays wide receiver, but he played tight end in college, and that's what he is.
And he fits that typical, like, kind of slower, like wide receiver.
He plays the Kelvin Benjamin role that they tried to get out from.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, we both like the DJ Moore is going to help out Cam at least for the next three to 4 years before some contract stuff happens. The next one that was drafted, I believe he was drafted in the first round, was Calvin Ridley out of Alabama. Now, this was my guy. I loved them because they were kind of already running a pro offense, and I just love SEC guys. So he goes to Atlanta. He doesn't go too far away from Alabama, and he'll be hooked up with Julio Jones and Matt Ryan. Now, everyone immediately on Twitter was like, "Oh, who better to learn from than Julio Jones?" But you know what? They got some pretty good coaches over there. I know it's Sarkisian. Everyone didn't really like him, but those wide receivers coaches are good. They'll get him. Like Calvin Ridley is kind of ready. Like he's a very good route runner. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's going to jump in and have 60, 70 catches. But at the very least, like there's a clear-cut wide receiver too of Atlanta.
Yeah, and just to add there, Calvin Ridley, at least in my opinion, was the most pro-ready prospect. I know everyone on Dynasty is kind of down on him because he's on the older side, but he was definitely the one who was most ready to contribute in a pro offense. And getting to play opposite Julio is obviously a good thing because Julio will pull all the coverage and make it easy for Ridley to learn. The one thing that I find interesting, and I can't remember where I was reading this on Twitter, and I apologize that I'm not giving the proper credit here, but there has been a lot of talk of like, oh, Julio will learn, or sorry, Calvin will learn from Julio, or this player will learn from this player. That's not really like, yeah, the veterans probably want to be teachers or mentors or whatever, but that's not really their job. That's the coach's job. So yeah, you're absolutely right. You should be paying attention to who's the wide receiver coach, who's the offensive coordinator. In this case, I do think it's a very good fit for Calvin Ridley. I had him a little lower on my boards before the landing spot, and then I saw the landing spot, and I thought this is very, very good for him, and moved him back into my first-round range of rookie picks.
The only reason Matt Ryan was not a quarterback one last year. Well, he was, but like he was like on the fringe. Let me go back for a second. The reason he had such down numbers, fantasy numbers from 2016 to 17.
Well, he also had a career year in 2017.
He had a career year, but the numbers were very similar in terms of completion percentage, in terms of yards. It's just touchdowns are way down.
It also takes time to learn the new offense.
True.
Because it's a new playbook under Sarkisian. So they had to learn that. I'm not saying that I think Matt Ryan's going to be amazing this year, but he's going to continue to put up his very serviceable fantasy numbers, and I think Calvin Ridley will play a part in that.
And I don't even know who off the top of my head who was the previous wide receiver too. Was it Sanu?
Mohamed Sanu. And Calvin Ridley is,
substantially
Sanu's a good role type player in the NFL, but Calvin Ridley is a substantially better football player, at least on paper, than Sanu.
Sanu's a guy that's like going to give you you target him like 6 times in a game, 5 times in a game, and he'll catch it like 2 or 3 times.
Yep.
Ridley is a legitimate wide receiver 2 option, which you can target him 10 to 15 times and feel comfortable about that.
And he has the upside that, God forbid anything were to happen to Julio, he could be that number 1 target in their offense.
We both like Calvin Ridley. We both think he was the most pro-ready wide receiver. We both like it for Matt Ryan. So I actually think Matt Ryan scored, it looks like, about 230-ish fantasy points last year, 220-ish fantasy points last year. Those numbers could go up. They really could.
Yeah, I think they could. And I know he also had a large amount of interceptions, especially in the red zone last season, I believe. I might be making that up, but if he can bring those down, he could. I'm not saying he's going to play like 2017 again because he played out of his mind.
Right, 2016.
2016. Yeah, he played out of his mind. But I do think that he is capable of putting up very good numbers.
Let's move on to Courtland Sutton. Now, this was a guy I wasn't too familiar with, but then I saw his SMU, which is kind of a very nice pass-heavy offense. So keep that in mind. Goes to Denver, though. And so he'll be lined up there with another SMU guy, Emmanuel Sanders, and then Demaryius Thomas. Case Keenum. Now he's got a third option there. But my first opinion is that Courtland Sutton might not see a whole lot of playing time this year.
So I agree with that, but I've seen Courtland Sutton fall into the second round in some drafts, and it blows my mind because he had very good college numbers, especially his senior and junior season. Yeah. Or sorry, his sophomore and junior season because he redshirted one freshman year. And he is going to be somebody who becomes, I think, the number 1 target in 2019 for Case Keenum or whoever's the quarterback there. And I say that because both Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders are on the older side, and both of them have incredibly expensive contracts in 2019 that the Broncos can cut for 0 dead cap. So if the Broncos want to hit the reset button or they just think they're not living up to their contracts, they can get out from both those older guys. And then Courtland Sutton instantly becomes the number 1 option. And, a bunch of people I trust, Nick Whalen being one of them and a few others. I know Gabe Gearing, and I think Nick Whelan's handle is just at Nick Whelan, and Gabe Gearing is FF Manbun. But they've been high on Nick Whalen for pretty much his entire college career. And so if you can get any kind of discount on him in your rookie drafts, I'd take it. But to tie it back to quarterbacks, since that's what we're about here, I've said this before on this podcast, but Case Keenum was my biggest winner of the draft, period. Because not only did the Broncos not draft a quarterback to compete with him or sign another one, but they got him Courtland Sutton. They got him Deshaun Hamilton, I think it is, or Deshaun, however you pronounce it. Mm-hmm. And they also got him Troy, I'm going to botch his last name, Fumanchali,
Nailed it.
Sorry if I botched your last name, Troy. But he got a ton of weapons for the future, so they're clearly building around Case Keenum, and it's just wheels up for Case Keenum, essentially.
I'll tell you what, if things go right for Case Keenum, he's got the potential to just be like slaying chicks in Denver for the next like 5 to 6 years, dude. I mean, everything's laid out for him. Like they got him he's got two very good wide receivers. I still think is a very good wide receiver tandem, and Sanders and Demaryius Thomas.
He should do well this year because those guys had down seasons, but one of them had an ankle injury, and the other one still had like 900 yards, even though he had Trevor Siemian throwing him the ball. So now that they have an actual, at least decent quarterback, and I really do think Case Keenum is in fact a decent quarterback and definitely an improvement over Siemian. Those guys should have improvements this year, but once they're gone, it's going to be the Cortland Sutton show.
It's amazing to look at Keenum's numbers last year in Minnesota and try to think to yourself, like, who the hell was he throwing to?
He's starting to Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs.
Oh, okay. I forgot about Thielen already. Who was wide receiver number 5 overall?
Yeah, Thielen was excellent last season.
Yeah.
Diggs was pretty good when he wasn't hurt, too. And he also had Kyle Rudolph, Jerick McKinnon. He had a lot of good pieces there. Jerick McKinnon caught a lot of passes.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe I'm just a jabroni for
that. Pat Shurmur, and this is what makes me somewhat confident in the Giants' future, not so much Gettleman as we've been over on the pod, but Pat Shurmur now has a history of taking kind of like these not so great quarterbacks or like former Jeff Fisher guys, I guess, and turning them into like decent NFL quarterbacks. So hopefully the fix that he gave Case Keenum last year continues to work in a new system in Denver, but I definitely believe in Case Keenum.
I think the only way that Case Keenum is not the quarterback in 2019 as well is if Jeff Fisher somehow like takes over the Denver Broncos.
That'd be
even if he is the quarterback, then he's just screwed. No one's going to draft him. You might as well trade him if you hear that information or drop him outright.
Yeah, if Jeff Fisher ever finds his way into an NFL job, whoever his quarterback is, get rid of as fast as you can.
I'm interested to see at the end of 2018 if Cortland Sutton and Case Keenum do start to develop a little bit of a rapport. If they do, that could be a really dangerous combo in the later years because we've seen.
I think they'll start to build some chemistry because he'll get in on like 3 wide receiver sets. It's not like he's going to do nothing this year.
I don't know if he'll start initially, but I can see him starting later down the road.
You also might be able to get him cheap if you're not the one to draft him after this season because he'll probably disappoint whoever spends a first-round pick on him, not realizing that Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders can be cut next season. So he might be one that you look to acquire after the season's over and he has a quote-unquote disappointing rookie season.
So look for that to help out Case Keenum. We're talking year 2, 3. So 2019, 2020, I think, is when we're going to see the most benefit of that.
Yep, absolutely.
Impact. Great. Awesome. Good stuff. Next one we got on this list here, Christian Kirk out of Texas A&M.
Yep.
Is it Texas A&M? Yeah, Texas A&M.
Yeah, you're right.
And he was drafted by the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a combination of what we think will be Sam Bradford and then eventually Josh Rosen.
Yeah, for real quick, I saw a story and apparently the Cardinals weren't concerned about it, but Christian Kirk was arrested recently for throwing rocks at cars somewhere. So he might have some maturity issues, but I'm more excited about him in tandem with Josh Rosen than I am Sam Bradford, obviously, because
100%.
Sam Bradford, kudos to him, but I wasn't even sure he was ever going to play again after his knee injury. And Josh Rosen was I wanted him for the Giants. And the idea that they can grow together, especially since the only thing in Christian Kirk's way of being a number 1 wide receiver for that team is a Larry Fitzgerald, who's probably on his last legs as much as I love Larry Fitzgerald. The idea that they're just going to grow and develop this chemistry together, I think is going to be very, very good for both Josh Rosen and Christian Kirk. So I'd be looking to acquire both of them if they're cheaper, especially Rosen because he may not start right away.
You said something that was really interesting to me. Can you think of any person off the top of your head that doesn't like Larry Fitzgerald, either as a person or like as a fantasy player? I can't. I think it's universal.
No, pretty much. Yeah, you're right. Pretty much everyone I've talked to on Twitter, at least, has only good things to say about Larry Fitzgerald.
He doesn't he's just like, you never hear anything about him like in the off season about getting like arrested for throwing stuff at cars.
From everything I hear, he's pretty much a class act. So, and Larry Fitzgerald is obviously having a Hall of Fame career, and we should appreciate it while he's still around.
Yeah, he's definitely the Hall of Fame.
But it is part of our jobs as people who like to talk about dynasty football to think about what the future is going to be like after Larry Fitzgerald is gone, because I don't think anyone's going to say, oh, Larry Fitzgerald is going to play another 3 seasons even.
Oh, no. If and in the way it's shaping out, it looks like Christian Kirk is going to take over his Raiders. Like, absolutely. Yeah. If that's at least the plan for the Cardinals.
And they could always bring in someone else after the season. They could draft another wide receiver. But at least as of now, Christian Kirk is in a very good position to get a lot of target share in an offense led by Josh Rosen. And that's a very good thing for both of them.
So the whole throwing stuff at cars, even after – so apparently – most of the GMs and coaches, it looks like all the GMs and coaches, kind of scouts and GMs, kind of knew about it before the draft, and the media didn't. And they still said that he was like a high character guy. You know, maybe he was just like kind of like how I was at your wedding on Saturday, and was a little fucked up, and was like, oh, this seems like something fun to do. But from what it seems like, he's a good guy too. Look, I don't remember him ever getting in trouble, hearing about his name before and getting in trouble. You know, but I'm with you. It's his value comes with Josh Rosen. It's not with Bradford. The Cardinals are in full rebuild mode. It seems like, at least they will be. We think by week 6.
The Cardinals don't think they're in rebuild mode, but they should be and will be.
Yeah, so it makes sense to, you know, they'll start Bradford, which is fine, but you know, we're looking at next year, the year after, and then hopefully what we think is a long time from Rosen to Kirk.
Yeah, they'll have good chemistry, I think, and it's a good fit for each other. And it's interesting because I've noticed so far everyone we've talked about, we've just been, oh yeah, this is great. So maybe we have, I don't know, I can't even remember who's next on the show sheet, but maybe whoever's next, I'll have to, like, even if I think it's good, I'll have to say they're bad just so I don't keep sounding like everything's awesome.
The only thing that does that could the only thing that is kind of, I would say maybe doesn't work in Christian Kirk's favor. I don't, you know, he's not a big guy. Like I said, we were going over like Antonio Brown talking about, like, you know, he's barely 6 foot. It says 6 foot, but we all know he's not like 6 foot. He's like 5'11". He's a great route runner. But the thing about Antonio Brown is he plays a lot bigger than what he is. Mm-hmm. Christian Kirk does strike me as somebody who's a little bit more like a, I don't want to say like Deshaun Jackson, because he was like, you know, he was like super fast, or like Santana Moss or any of those guys. But you kind of worry about, like,
I feel like I've heard, I might be making this up, but I feel like I've heard like a Golden Tate comparison.
For Christian I could see Kirk. Golden Tate. So I could see Golden Tate, which isn't a bad comparison at all.
Yeah, I don't know who made it. I'm very bad at crediting people today.
Golden Tate, by the way, he just opened up an ice cream shop or a cake shop or something like that.
That was Marvin Jones.
Oh, it was Marvin Jones. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
How funny was that interaction on Twitter?
Yeah. Well, for people who don't know, that was he opened up a cake shop, and someone asked him why he would open up like that chain, because it sucked basically, and he's like, well, it's my wife's and she loves it and she loves the recipe, so like shut the fuck up, more or less. And
it was somebody that was like a big name reporter too.
Yeah. He basically just put the guy in his place. So good for you, Marvin Jones.
more evidence of broadcasting genius in the sports world that we see so every day. So we have a few more guys we're going to hit on here for this. Chicago Bears take Anthony Miller. So the idea is that Mitchell Trubisky will be his guy. Anthony Miller, wide receiver from Memphis. Another guy who's a little bit older. He played all 4 years, redshirted too. Does that factor in at all here with the Trubisky thing? Does it matter?
I'm starting to, and I know the dynasty community is probably going to roast me for this, but I'm starting to be a guy who doesn't really care about rookie age that much. And the reason I say that is because if you play in these 2 or 3 year windows, or you're playing to win now, which I think you always should be. Like, yeah, it's fun to build, but you do want to think about your future a bit. But if you're talking about the difference between 24 and like 22 or 21, if you're only playing for 2 or 3 year windows and realize that, if you're like me, those guys, even if, let's say, I draft someone who's 21, they're not going to be on my team when they're 27. I trade way too much for that, or like make cuts or whatever. Like, they're not going to, no one is going to be on my team for 6 years, at least very not likely. So I don't really care about age that much, unless you're telling me like a rookie's coming out and he's like 30, and then it's like, well, why the hell is he not in the NFL yet?
Like Brandon Whedon?
Yeah, like Brandon Whedon. But I've talked about this a bunch this offseason, and I kind of wish I could hate on this, because I just said like, oh, the next one I should just shit on. But I really like the fit. I think that it's good to be able to play opposite A-Rob. Matt Nagy seems like he's a good offensive coordinator. He did a lot of good things when he was back with the Chiefs. And the Bears have just made a bunch of good moves this season where I'm really excited to see what they put on the field. And Anthony Miller, if I'm not wrong, has generally been like a second round or even third round rookie pick in some drafts. And that just seems like very good value for him, especially because A-Rob is coming off injury. I don't think that Anthony Miller has the ability to be like a true number one target hog, but he could be someone who's a very good complement to A-Rob and step up if A-Rob has to miss a game or two.
It'd be interesting to see one. I know we're a quarterback show, but I'm going to go on a little side note here. It'd be interesting to see one how Kevin White responds this year. Like if
he might not even make the
healthy,
roster.
Yeah. Like, and two, is this the real reason when they drafted Anthony Miller to make sure that hey, this is the guy we want to take?
Well, I know they didn't pick up their fifth-year They didn't pick up the fifth-year option of Kevin White. So Kevin White has 1 year to show teams that he can still play.
Yeah, not just Bears, like literally everyone.
Yeah. I have a share or two of Kevin White, so I'm rooting for him. But yeah, for Trubisky, as many people know, last year he was my favorite quarterback in the class. Not necessarily the one who I thought had the most upside or anything like that. He's just my personal favorite. I called myself Super Trooper. Other people have called themselves Truth Biscuits because it sounds like his last name. But I am excited to see what all this means for him. I said on a podcast we had, I believe it was a few weeks ago, that I believe this season Mitchell Trubisky will actually have a better overall finish than Patrick Mahomes. And I still think that. I think that he'll finish as a high-end QB2 in like the 14 to maybe 17 range.
Look, like if we're talking about like if you're going to be a good fantasy quarterback, you got to one play, you have to start, and two, you have to play almost every game and show some forms of consistency so that the starters start you. They're going to have volume. I mean, they have kind of a good complement of running backs back there with Howard and
Tariq Cohen.
Yes, thank you, Tariq Cohen. So, and the Bears are pretty much invested in him. Is Anthony Miller going to be the reason that he becomes a QB1 from QB2? I mean,
probably not.
I don't think so. But looking at these guys' numbers, like he had 95 catches 2 years ago, and he had 96 catches last year. I mean, those are pretty good numbers in college. I know like Memphis likes to pass a lot, but I'd be shocked to see some other wide receivers in this year's class that had higher numbers than that.
Yeah, no, it'll be a good fit, and it's not so much about Anthony Miller as it is just they added all these weapons, including in free agency. They got Trey Burton and they got Anthony Miller and they got Allen Robinson.
But it shows he can at least handle the load. Like, he can handle the load. He can catch a football. You can rely on him to catch a football. He can throw a route running.
But the point is more that they have built around Mitchell Trubisky.
Sure.
So they've given him a ton of options to throw to where basically if Mitchell Trubisky doesn't have a good year his sophomore year, like that's on him because he just has so much to work with.
So if the Bears are bad and if the Browns are bad, who loses their job first, Hugh Jackson or Mitchell Trubisky?
Mitchell Trubisky, I don't think is going to lose his job because they traded so much to get him. But Hugh Jackson, well, all right, just a quick aside with Hugh Jackson.
Or should I say Gabe?
He's not controlling the offense, supposedly. That's Todd Haley. He's not controlling the defense. So he's literally just a figurehead at this point. So basically, if like the Browns start like 0-3 or 0-4, he's gone. And like Todd Haley will probably be promoted to head coach is my guess. So it's definitely Hugh Jackson will lose his job first among those two.
So I think our final analysis here, at least Bobby's is, and you know a lot more about Trubisky, and you like Trubisky a lot more than me, and I think you've put a lot more time, to be fair, into researching him, is that Anthony Miller won't make him a difference that big from a QB2 to QB1. However, if you're making your decision based on that, that's our recommendation. Trubisky
if you're deciding on a QB2, then Anthony Miller does help the case for taking Mitchell Trubisky as your second quarterback in either a super flex or 2-quarterback league.
Another guy is drafted, and this one was in the 3rd round. This is James Washington from Oklahoma State. I'll start with
primarily put this in for you, by the way.
I know you did. So here's why I like James Washington. Here's why I like the James Washington move. Not so much because of James Washington. I mean, I like it because of the Steelers, but I mean, Mason Rudolph has so much chemistry with him.
Yep.
Look, Ben Roethlisberger is already like going to put up QB1 numbers. We know that he's got like a plethora of weapons. Plus, he has James Washington to like back up.
And he has
Juju,
the god Juju Smith.
Yeah, he's got Juju right there. But if and when Ben retires here in the next 3 years, and what we think happens is Mason Rudolph, this is where the value comes in. Now he's got this guy that he's been throwing balls to for 6, 7, 8 years in a row.
Yep.
It's like having like Ben and AB light.
Or it's like having it's like Linus with his blankie. He took his blankie everywhere with him. So in this case, James Washington is Mason Rudolph's blankie. He won't go anywhere without him.
I recently saw some memes and some videos of Keanu Reeves and whoever played like Ted from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, or if he was Bill, and then like from like recently, like 20, 30 years later. So that's the first thing that came to my mind was James Washington and Mason Rudolph was, you know, James and Mason's Excellent Adventure.
So it'll be like 80 years in the future. They'll be sitting on their rockers and being like, remember when we got married to the same woman?
Yeah.
And like, remember how our kids did this? Well, man, we've been through a lot together.
Or they'll be sitting on the porch, you know, drinking some iced tea or lemonade or whatever it is they're drinking, saying, Alexa, what are those kids doing across the street?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
So James Washington, I mean, this immensely helps out Mason Rudolph, right? Like you had him, to be fair, you did have him kind of like you weren't sure what to think about, but the fact that James Washington's
I didn't really know what to think of Mason Rudolph, but I love James Washington, so I think that does help. And you know, I guess by the time Rudolph is playing, it'll be towards the end. Maybe, I don't really know, of Antonio Brown's career. Maybe he'll play till he's 35, but maybe he won't. But at that point, then it can be the Juju and James Washington show, and I don't think they'll really miss a beat, especially if it is Rudolph. I'm still not fully convinced that Rudolph is the guy, but having James Washington there for him to throw to definitely helps his case.
The information we have right now, I think he's the guy, but anything could change in 3 years.
Yep.
Anything.
Yeah, we have no idea how long Ben's going to play for. It could be one of those situations where like they drafted Rudolph just to like put a fire under Ben and be like, play better, or else this guy's taking your job.
Or even Landry Jones, for that matter, because Landry's kind of been like very inconsistent and hasn't really shown that many good flashes.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, another guy that was drafted, this is Dante Pettis. He goes to the 49ers. He was at Washington, I believe. He was at Washington. Yes, he was at Washington.
He was a Husky.
Yeah, he was a Husky. So he'll be with Jimmy G. You know, initially I had to like look this guy up.
Make sure you say Jimmy GQ, because as I've learned from fantasy Twitter, if you say Jimmy G, people think you're talking about Jimmy Graham.
Okay, fair enough. So Jimmy GQ, plus he's
just hot.
Arguably the hottest quarterback.
Still glad he wasn't at my wedding. I don't know what would have happened.
So he gets taken. Or no, I don't even know if he was. Second round, pick 44 gets taken from Washington to the 49ers. Stays on the left coast out there. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think Jimmy GQ is already going to be a top 4, top 5 quarterback this year.
Wow, that's a hot take right there.
I'm sorry, I really do. So the fact that and I could see it happen. I can see him being a QB1 the next 5 to 6 years. Just because as long as the situation stays the way it is, as long as he has Shanahan right there.
Yep.
I haven't seen anything for me to say, no, he's not like consistently good enough week in and week out, because even when he backed up Tom Brady, he looked pretty good. And then when he was traded to the 49ers, he looked damn freaking good at the end of last year.
Yeah, a lot of that was based on him winning games. I mean, if you look at it, he did all right. I think if you take out his one game, so the 5 games he actually started, he averaged something like 15 fantasy points, which isn't bad, but isn't great. But he also didn't have many offensive weapons. Like don't get me wrong, I really like Marquise Goodwin, but his number 1 wide receiver since Pierre Garçon was hurt was Marquise Goodwin.
Well, he did have. Again, you could argue that the touchdowns were down. Now, he threw a couple of interceptions. You could argue that the touchdowns were down a little bit. So that's why his fantasy numbers weren't as high.
I don't know. This year, he has a lot of weapons to throw to. And he's going to be – he has Jerick McKinnon, who we discussed earlier, who catches a lot of passes out of the backfield. Pierre Garçon is coming back and supposedly healthy. He has Marquise Goodwin. Now they added Dante Pettis. They could maybe still sign Des Bryant, although I've had this argument with Zach where I think Des Bryant is completely washed, more or less. But I'm not quite as high on Jimmy GQ as you are, but I do think he's very good, and a lot of that is because I think Kyle Shanahan is just good at bringing out the best in his quarterbacks, and he runs good offensive schemes, and he'll find a way to make all these guys very relevant. And I really like Dante Pettis. When I was doing mocks before the draft, I used to always get him in like the 3rd round of rookie drafts. You're probably going to have to spend at least a 2nd round mid-second round pick on him now if you want him in your rookie draft, because people know he's teamed up with Jimmy GQ, and that's going to be a good thing for him.
You think Pettis enters the training camp as a wide receiver too? Probably not, right? Probably 3.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of. I think it depends on the health of Garcon and what they do with him, because Garcon's still. I mean, before he got hurt, he was still very good. So he is 31 or 32, coming off a neck injury.
You would think he's like a lot older than that, but he's not.
Yeah, so
it's crazy.
I don't know how much Pettis has the ability to overcome him, but if he's not healthy, then Pettis could be in the regular rotation.
So overall, do you think Jimmy GQ is QB1 or QB2?
Probably borderline.
You think he's like around 12?
He's like
13?
I'll give him like the traditional like Matt Ryan number where he's like 13 or 14 and like just misses being a QB1.
Yeah, so clearly I'm the one that like has a lot of stock in him. I think he's a top. I think he's going to finish top 5 this year. I really.
That's what Zach thinks. I think too. So
Shanahan just has a way to really like coach up the quarterbacks to their strengths and hide their weaknesses. He did the same thing with RG3. Did the same. I mean, he did a hell of a job with Matt Ryan. I forget where he was the week before, the couple years before that, but like he really like whoever the quarterback was there really lit up, if I remember correctly. And then he did the same thing with Jimmy G last year. Let me pull that up and see if I can find it.
Yeah, he is definitely very good. I don't want to put too much stock in coaching, because coaching can take you very far, as we know. It can also set you back, aka Jeff Fisher, Mike Mularkey. But you do want to still have the talent, and I'm not saying that Jimmy GQ doesn't have the talent, but just when I think of top 5, it's already going to be, to me at least, like Aaron Rodgers will obviously be up there if he's healthy. Russell Wilson will be up there if he's healthy.
Well, he's one.
Yeah, and then you have, man, I'm actually blanking.
Cam Newton's probably gonna be close to being up there.
Yeah.
I would imagine Tom Brady's probably gonna be up there.
Yeah.
I mean, even despite everyone says that at some point he's not gonna be.
I guess I could see a path for Jimmy GQ to get to 5. It's just there's so many guys that I could see a path for that may push him down. It's not necessarily a knock on him so much as there's just so many guys that I could see as like quote unquote top tier guys.
Right.
That it might push him down a bit.
So between when he was with the Redskins, where he had RG3 and then Cousins, and then with the Falcons, where he was with Matt Ryan, he was actually with the Cleveland Browns. And if I remember correctly, they actually hit that in 2014. Their offense, their quarterback was
Ryan Hoyer.
I think it was Hoyer, yeah. And Hoyer actually had a pretty good year
until he got hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's good for quarterbacks. It's just I don't want to put all stock in saying that one coach can make anyone a god or this. It's hard. I guess my point is like when I think of top 5 quarterbacks, I do think of like the Aaron Rodgers of the world or Russell Wilson.
Right.
So I'm not quite ready to put him on that level yet.
I'm just anticipating somebody drops.
He could reach there, and yeah, that's possible.
All right, let's move on to tight ends. You want to?
Sure.
So the first one we had was Mike Gesicki, Penn State, right?
Yep.
He's from Penn State. He goes to the Dolphins.
Dominated the combine.
He was a beast of the combine. He was number 1 in everything. Like he basically, I think he was 2 in a couple.
If you look at his spider chart on Mock Draftable, it's basically just completely full. As Kyle LeBrecq likes to say, he also has his dummy cheat sheet, which you should all check out. It's on dynastydummies.com. It's called the dummy cheat sheet, and he shows athletic circles for players that are based on their combine numbers. It's a full circle, and the way Kyle says full circle, it sounds like he needs a change of pants every time he says full circle.
Full circle.
Yeah, like that's pretty much it. So he also had the best landing spot, which is why he was the top of our show sheet. Other tight ends in this class didn't have the best landing spots, or multiple of them, aka Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews, ended up on the same team. But Gesicki ends up with Adam Gase, who doesn't have a huge history of using the tight end that much, but he ends up there with Ryan Tannehill, who likes to throw over the middle, and he just lost Jarvis Landry. Yeah. So Gesicki could pick up some of those Landry-type targets, and he's obviously an athletic beast. So I don't hate the landing spot as much as I heard some people say. And I know we've mentioned it a few times, but Zach, Lopsided Trades, wrote an article about why people are too low on Ryan Tannehill, and I think this move does nothing except help Ryan Tannehill.
I'm talking about Gesicki. Gesicki is the perfect, like, farm boy tight end. You know what I mean? Big Ten farm boy tight end that comes in.
I just imagine someone who like grew up and is like, "Ma, Pa, I'm done carrying the ox cart now. Can I go play some football?"
You know, he's probably doing like his entire workout session is just like being in Siberia during like Rocky IV, where he's just like running around with like chopping wood, where like every other tight end's just injecting themselves with drugs and like in this new age like Jim Bukaseki's out there like chopping wood, right?
Yeah.
But he strikes me as somebody because he's not afraid to go over the middle. I mean, Big Ten guys can hit, and it's cold. He goes down to southern Florida, so obviously it's not going to be quite as cold. But he definitely is a guy, like you said, not afraid to go over the middle.
Yep.
If you got a 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, he's going to throw to you. Now, that's not like those aren't like huge numbers, but that stuff adds up if you're a quarterback. Like as opposed to going 0 for 1, you're now 1 for 1 for like 6 yards. I mean, that's the 6 yards that puts you over the top.
Those of us who play fantasy see it. If your tight end can get you like 50 receiving yards in a week, that's generally like a good thing.
Yeah, amazing. So I'm with you. I love the move. Gesicki goes there. I really wasn't high on it at all because I'm not a big fan of Ryan Tannehill. Not because I don't think he's. Well, yeah, actually, I think he's not that good. but this will definitely help out if you're a Tannehill owner. It will definitely help you out. I don't know if he's like a long-term answer, but you definitely feel better if you're a Tannehill owner.
For Tannehill, they at the very minimum, just to go back to the draft for a second, they did not draft a quarterback highly. I think they took one in the 6th or 7th round, if I recall.
Mm-hmm.
But his job's at least secure for this season.
And then who's the backup there? Osweiler?
Backup is Brock Osweiler. Yeah.
So that's a fun fact right there. So Mike Gesicki will help out Ryan Tannehill. I think it's not going to be one of those things that puts Tannehill above from a QB2, but he'll give you those extra points. He'll help out giving you those extra points week in and week out.
He'll be, in my opinion, at least a low-end QB2.
So you just mentioned this a few minutes ago with the two
Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews.
Right. Thank you. Yep. Going to the Ravens. Hayden Hurst, my guy, loved him. Saw him play every Saturday this year.
Did he babysit you because he's just so old?
Why you gotta dog him like that, man? I watched, and plus I'm that young, right? I watched basically every South Carolina game this year, and I was able to watch him. And I don't know if I can say like what I think I want to say about Hayden Hurst objectively without being like, oh, like Joe Flacco immediately comes like from like a QB3 to
he's
QB2.
Now the QB1, not just a QB1.
The shirts are finally correct. He's finally elite.
Yeah.
It's Baltimore though. I don't know how much stock I can put in. I know they had.
That's where receivers go to die.
Receivers like
that. Well, that and the
Dixon
Bills.
and their other tight end too. That they had for like 4 or 5 years.
Max Williams was hurt.
Just kind of going back and forth. To be fair, I think. I don't know what to think about this move. I love Hayden Hurst, obviously, but then it's like, oh, you get Mark Andrews, and that's just kind of double.
Andrews is a better pass catcher. So for fantasy purposes,
Hurst is probably a better athlete, though.
Andrews is probably the one you want to target just because he's a better pass catcher. And also because the Ravens have such a bad O-line that I'm guessing Hurst is going to be asked to block a lot. He's going to be more of that blocking tight end role. For whatever reason, the Ravens always love to draft like 2 tight ends.
Yeah,
when they got Max Williams, who I just mentioned, they also got Crockett Gilmore, who's gone now, I guess. But yeah, I'm really not sure how to feel about it. And I also don't think not Ryan Tannehill, still stuck on our last subject clearly. Joe Flacco is long for fantasy relevance. I could see where they struggle to get out of the gate and Lamar Jackson starts right after like 5 games or something like that.
I don't know if he's going to start that soon, but I understand where you're coming from.
Lamar Jackson is the future of the Ravens already, and the leash on Flacco is short.
So let's make this quick. Mark Andrews, Hayden Hurst, not going to help out Joe Flacco. He's basically going to be stuck in purgatory.
Yeah. I mean, it might be a good buy low now, if just in case like someone has an injury and wants to pay you for a starting quarterback. But I'm not going out of my way to get more Joe Flacco shares.
Another tight end drafted was Dallas Goedert. He goes to the Eagles, and interesting enough, I'm thinking Carson Wentz went to what, North Dakota?
I don't recall.
So Goddard it looks like he went to South Dakota State. Wentz, I believe, actually, now I think about it, was North Dakota. But the thing that's interesting here is that the Eagles do quite a good job of developing all of their positional players to be weapons in this very effective offense.
They also run a lot of 2 tight end sets.
Right.
Because I know people were upset because they already have Ertz. but I think Ertz might even have some contract stuff going on in the next season or two. The one thing I will say about Dallas Goedert is, and I've heard this said on other podcasts, I think it was the Fantasy Life podcast I was listening to earlier today, where Travis May, which is at FF Travis May, I believe. I'll correct myself later if that's not the case. But he was saying that the most awesome part of Dallas Goedert is that the Eagles traded up in Dallas when Jason Witten had just retired to draft a tight end named Dallas in front of the Cowboys. And like anytime the Cowboys get screwed over, I love it because I hate any team that calls itself America's team that's pretentious and obnoxious.
Mm-hmm.
So that was awesome. And like, what was even funnier, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not an Eagles fan, but Cowboys fans being trolled by a punter was amazing.
So real quick, he's at FF_Travis M.
Yep.
Travis.
Yeah. So I gave him his full last name, but he just has the last initial. But yeah, that was awesome. Dallas Goedert, someone I like, or maybe that was Shane who was talking about that on, and that's at DFF Shane. But anyway,
yeah, I think he was. So he was on an episode we had about 3 weeks ago, which was also our most popular episode of all time because of, I think, the stuff that we said that wasn't football related. But he was talking about how, you know, he's who's the I'm drawing a blank here, the Eagles coach.
I'm trying to blank too.
Jesus Christ, what am I doing?
Wasn't Frank Wright, right? No, he went to the Colts.
Doug Peterson.
Doug Peterson.
Jesus.
Yeah. Wow.
So I'm gonna edit this out. Yeah. So Shane was on our episode about, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and which also happened to be one of our most popular episodes because of the stuff we were talking about, specifically with
AKA Spider on Spider.
Spider.
and FF Pornbot.
And porn bots. Yeah, that one got a little out of hand, but it was fun. He was talking about how, like, you know, as long as Doug Peterson's there in charge, like, he was there for like the McNabb and pre-McNabb years, which like the Eagles just did absolute dog shit to surround their quarterbacks with like good weapons. So to Shane's credit, like, yeah,
they're doing everything they can to surround Carson Wentz.
Peterson's like, nope, I'm giving my quarterback as many weapons as he needs because I've been there for the bad.
And
bad
while
days.
we're at it, we're gonna fill your computer with some nice spider on spider action. There you go, Carson Wentz. Enjoy.
Carson Wentz is. You think he's downloading Spider on Spider?
I don't know. I feel like Carson Wentz is probably more into like. I don't know why my brain is going here, but I'm gonna say like koala on koala.
I had so real quick. I had a friend that came in last week into the city, and so I was hanging out with her, and I basically I was thinking it was like a Thursday or something like that. I forget what it was, but I told her like, hey, you should listen to our podcast because she was asking, and she heard that episode. She goes, I don't know anything about football, but I really enjoyed the porn bot and the spider on spider.
Yeah, we'll have to have Shane on again because he makes some interesting conversations happen.
Yeah. Oh man! All right, is there? You think there's any other tight ends or wide receivers that you want to hit on?
I mean, there are deeper guys, but I don't really.
Not really relevant yet. You know, we could do an episode in a year or two on them.
Yep. Or never.
Yeah. I'd rather talk more about Spider on Spider.
This podcast is actually transitioning just to talk about random animal on animal action that we can come up with. And for context, that wasn't actual animal on animal action. We were talking about Kylo Letta and another former Spider. So I guess we'll have to find like different mascots, like bulldog on bulldog action, and then make it about like people who went to Georgia. Is that right? Georgia Bulldogs, right? Yeah. So
we have, the Gamecocks, and Joe Flacco went to Delaware, so you got that Gamecock blue hen. Blue hen action. All right, we're running out of time, so we're gonna finishing up here. We're gonna go right to our Afterburners. I'm gonna be honest with you, I wasn't really prepped for having any Afterburners. I don't know if you have any.
I have a decent one. So first, I wanted to start by saying, like, initially what I was going to say is going to be like very gooey and like, oh, I don't have anything to complain about because I just had like a really great wedding and it was one of the best weekends of my life, and that's true. I put out a video earlier today thanking everyone in the fantasy community who reached out to me. But there was one thing that happened during the wedding, and it's not what you think I'm going to say.
I know you wouldn't bring that up, so I'm not.
What it is I went to lunch with my groomsmen on the day of my wedding, and everybody ordered, and I had the nervous shits because I was getting married later that day. So I just wanted plain pasta. So I ordered plain pasta.
No sauce.
No sauce, nothing.
You're kind of psychotic.
And this guy who's like high school student, whatever, looks at me and is like, huh? Like, what? Like, I don't understand because I'm brain dead. I'm like, can you just bring me some plain pasta? And then like after like 2 minutes, he finally gets it, goes away. Later, all the food's coming out. Everyone's being served. Like, they're really complicated dishes. Plain pasta, nowhere in sight.
Yeah.
And I even explained to him like why I was ordering plain pasta. I'm like, I'm getting married today. I'm just trying to like eat plainly so that I don't make myself sick or anything. And eventually I had to ask him about it because enough time had passed that I was like, all right, dude, like, where's my plain pasta? And
everyone around you has food except for you.
Yeah, exactly. So he comes back. He brings the biggest bowl of plain pasta I've ever seen. I'm like, all right, I guess you're trying to make up for it, whatever. But then he has the audacity to put a little bowl of Parmesan cheese, not on the pasta, just next to it. So it wasn't that bad. But I was really tempted to be like, dude, I said plain pasta. How hard is it to just go, I put some pasta in
the cheese just talking to you, like, it's like put me on this.
But like I put some pasta in a hot water, or I boiled some water, put the pasta in, and I brought it to you. Apparently this is rocket science to this like high schooler who doesn't understand how to make plain pasta or tell the kitchen to make plain pasta. They're like, oh my God, plain pasta. Nobody's ordered that in 1,000 years. So yeah, that's I guess because Mike's not here, I had to burn the food industry.
Food industry, right? Well, I was going to say, why didn't you go with soup then?
Oh, by the way, there was no soup served at my wedding. We do not cater to big soup. There was only salad and chicken and fish and other meats, but no soup was served whatsoever because soup in May is weird, and I still stick to it.
It was a little cooler than normal.
It was because it rained, but still no soup allowed.
Well, I don't know if I was going to have a burn ready because everything's been coming up Sam lately. I had a great time at your wedding. The Caps are up 2-0. Yeah. The Nats are cruising, right? Like, you know, I've got this potential opportunity coming up with employment, which I'm pretty excited about. But I think the one thing I'm going to burn is last week before the Eastern Conference Finals in hockey started, all the experts at ESPN, almost unanimous,
did not pick the Caps.
Tampa Bay Lightning in either 5 or 6 games. So guess what? Not going to happen in 5. Still could happen in 6, but I think at this point it's not going to. We go up 2-0, coming home back to the Capital One Center, which to me was always like the Verizon Center, but you know they have this changing of the stadium every year. So back in DC, and yeah, I think my burn is to all the quote unquote experts at ESPN.com in big hockey. We're calling this one out.
Big hockey.
Big hockey.
Are we just calling everyone big now if we don't agree with them? Like some random grandma on the street, we don't agree with her, so we're like, "You're big grandmas."
I got real quick. I got to say this about big soup. I was sitting in Grand Central getting ready to take the train on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I went to the bar and I ordered I ordered a drink, and then this couple came over next to me, sat down. They're both from England. Yeah, so you might see them.
All right.
And the bartender goes, "Oh, what do you guys want?" And he realized they were from England. He goes, "Oh, so do you want ice in your water? No, but sorry, in your beer." And so like, I looked over and I was like, "What? Like you guys drink you get ice in your beer?" It's like, "Well, only if it's like certain times, if it's certain beers, blah blah blah." And I was like, you know what? Like I'm gonna side with big beer here. I think you should never have ice in your beer. I don't know what you're doing. And
I thought that was an American thing.
They looked at me like, "What? No, dude, you don't put ice in the beer."
Yeah, but my dad went there abroad and like, I don't know. All I know is if you go to like Italy, for example, and ask for like ice in your soda, they think that's weird. So like Americans definitely use ice more in like normal drinks.
Like soda and what?
Yeah, or like juice. I don't know. Like they don't believe in ice. They're anti big ice.
They're not big ice.
So maybe it's not in England, but like in Italy, maybe if you ask for like ice in your beer, they'd be like, "What the fuck's wrong with you?"
Yeah, I don't know if I could do it. No ice in my beer.
Yeah.
Are you gonna put ice in your beer when you go there?
I've never had ice in my beer. Also, probably not. I'm going to just eat gelato until I explode.
It's the best over there, man.
Well, it's also I can eat it. For whatever reason, the process of how they make gelato is such that a lactose intolerant person who normally if they have like one sip of milk or anything, like would just be on the bathroom for the rest of the day, can eat gelato. So whenever I go there, literally like every meal, I will have gelato after or for the meal.
That's exciting, man.
Yeah. I'll be super fat, but I'll be happy.
Super fat, definitely happy. Great time this weekend, man. Really enjoyed it. Thanks so much. And again, we wanted to say thanks again to Mike. We know you got a really good opportunity with this new position, so we were happy to have you on. And this is just short term. We'll see what happens in the future if we can work it out. But for the short term, thanks so much for being a part of it and joining us every week and being a jabroni with us.
Yeah, we'll have to find ways to still burn Kitchener. I don't know.
We got to visit, man. Visit Kitchener. Guys, thanks so much for listening. Again, we're going to take a couple weeks off as Bobby goes to travel the world. Well, just parts of Europe, I guess.
We'll be back around probably mid to late June.
Mid to late June, definitely. So, again, you can find us at Afterburners Pod. This is episodes and previous episodes are on Podbean, Stitcher, and iTunes. Be sure to download, subscribe, and review our episodes. And follow us on Twitter at AfterburnersPod. If you have a question via email, want to be a guest, send it to theafterburnerspod@gmail.com. I am at the Needy One. He is at Rick Fantasy. Thanks for listening. Have a great couple of weeks.
Until next time, ciao, fans.